Thank you very much for attending my talk. I'll be talking today about Transparency Exchange API. Just to get an idea, how many of you heard about this project before? Okay, cool. So, no, that's great. So this is OWASP initiative, not a formal OWASP project. Instead, it will be ECMA certified and then ISO certified standard. And the question that I put in the header is where to find product SBOM. So if you're familiar with SBOMs, and I hope most everybody these days are, at least people working in security, there is a lot of talk about, okay, how we produce SBOM, consume SBOM, and then we need to create this system how somebody creates SBOM, consumes, and all this gets automated. But not a lot of times you see and you hear how to do it. So we try to sort of bridge that gap a little bit. So before I go any further, I put this slide with 3 QR codes. So first one is my initial talk on the subject, has a lot of motivation and introductory information. Second slide is, like there is no video yet, but it's a deck at my talk at OWASP Global AppSec. It has a lot about Internet of Things relationship, which won't be in this talk, but a lot of hardware-related stuff. Finally, there is this deck. The only thing it's slightly different because it's on SlideShare, so it doesn't actually contain this specific QR code because I had a chicken and egg problem there. But other than that, it's mostly the same, so you can follow along. Okay, so I'm not a lawyer. This is not a legal advice, but this slide has specific quotes from EU CRA. Which makes big strides in cybersecurity community because it's so big in terms of how many digital products actually fall under it. So what CRA tells, essentially, here is that you need to have SBOMs for your products with digital elements, and you need to store them, and it should have, like, you should store them for like 10 years or more for each single product, essentially, together with other technical documentation. Now, I believe that a lot of the current tools that we have are not actually capable to do that properly, but this initiative can help. And by the way, if you don't do it, they have like big fines in terms of like millions of dollars. So this talk, I try to make it from manufacturer perspective. So if you're a manufacturer who is building software or hardware devices like Internet of Things, stuff like that, then what do you actually need to manage your bills of materials? And I called it BOM, I mean, because I like the word BOM, but essentially this is a list of ingredients that you need. So first of all, you actually need to produce your SBOMs on a regular basis. Second, and I'll speak of this a lot, your SBOMs need to actually be mapped to releases, which we don't see all the time. You need a trust point, so authoritative website, and you need it not only for this, but there are other requirements in CRA specifically that need it, like security TXT, potentially other things. Finally, you need to identify your releases. These are the things that you need. Now we discuss how we get there. So again, everybody knows about SBOM, but SBOM is a list of ingredients of your software. And everybody kind of understands that, but in reality, so this is the state-of-the-art SCA from 5-6 years ago. And what it means essentially is you have your release train on top, and your release train is what you actually give to users, to consumers. And then you have some Git repository. And then at some point in this Git repository, SCA happens. And it happens usually every 6 months, every 3 months, every 1 month. The problem here is those two things are frequently disconnected. And then few things happened, like log4 shell, and SBOMs became a really big thing. And compliance started to require SBOMs. So in a lot of cases, what SCA pipelines did, same thing, but now with SBOM. So we still do this SCA every, let's say, X days, every 30 days, every 6 months. But now, on top of the list of vulnerabilities and everything, you also get your SBOM. But the underlying problem of mapping SBOMs to releases actually stays the same. So again, there is a disconnect because what you ship and what you analyze. What we want to see is we want to see documents that are organized per releases. I think that is very natural. However, this is difficult with the state of the art which existed a few years back and frequently persists. I'll say right away, because like I was thinking, and specifically because this is cloud native event. One area where this is done well, I believe, is OCI storages for container images, individual container images. Because you have one image, you have one SBOM that you can attribute to that image, and that is great. However, in real life, it's very rare that your product consists of a single container image, if ever. And again, if we take like hardware in the mix, that becomes like way, way more complicated. So we sort of can rely on this success somewhat, but it's not enough. So this slide, very important for me because I've been thinking on this for like 5 years, maybe, more or less. And it took some time to get adoption, and then I think some people came to this independently. But this is now part of T. So it's a product component data model. And I used the favorite product for supply chain security, which is Apache Log4j. Actually, on our team, we have a person who is active maintainer of Log4j. That was another reason. So on the left, we have product, which is Log4j itself. And the product is when users talk about Log4j or about the thing that manufacturer gives them, this is how they talk. Oh, I have Log4j, I'm using Log4j. Then you have product release. So that's like specific version of this product. But then, as we understand, this product release actually contains several components. But let's take it one way deeper. And I mean, the idea is pretty simple, that the mapping is actually happening on the level of product release to component release, not component directly. So Log4j actually has more components, but these two are main ones. So it's Log4j core and API. And you can see they have, like, I didn't want to clutter the slide, but the idea is the same. It may have much more components than two. And also, between different releases of your product, the components may actually change. So it's totally possible to replace certain component with the other one. So this product component model totally supports that. So taking this a little bit to the right, on the release level, we have those artifacts, which in this case, bill of materials, but can be a lot of other things, can be like attestations, SBOMs, certifications, formulations like Vexus VDR. So any document can be part of collection. And what we say is every time you upload, remove, modify a document, that creates new collection version. So this is, so on one hand, you have a product component model, and then you have this release to collection model. So now the question is how we populate this. And so I participate a lot in OpenSSF SBOM group. We have like coffee chat meetings every Monday. For the last, I think, 3 months, this theme came up almost every meeting, is how do we get accurate information about what goes into SBOM? And so I was thinking about it. The only answer, like the best answer, is your immediate upstream. So somebody who gave you a component has best knowledge, like best information about that component. And I mean license, its SBOM, et cetera. So if we think about this as like different nodes, and all of those nodes at some point start to share data properly, that would be really cool, right? Not saying that it may not happen right away, but the idea is that they will slowly start doing that. And this is, again, so this is forward vision. So forward vision is supply chain security becomes very much API driven. There was a Cyclone DX 2.0 announcement. I mean, it's future announcement. Cyclone DX 1.7 was released, and 2.0 was announced what features will be included. Let's put it like that. One thing they mentioned is, the current Cyclone DX is file-based, but Cyclone DX 2.0 would be, it would have a part which is API-based. And again, the vision is that API would sort of be the main driver. Because very frequently, people don't really need full SBOM. They just want certain details, which can be obtained through API. So kind of combining all those things that I said before together, there are things that manufacturers need to do to be compliant to emerging regulations. And my point is, if they do all those things, then they are actually ready to implement something like Transparency Exchange API. On the other hand, I believe that if they start with the implementation of Transparency Exchange API, it would be much easier to get to compliance to other things. So we're trying to build this framework which is compatible with other frameworks, like CRA that I mentioned. Okay, so Transparency Exchange API, few main features. So API first, it's an API document, open API document. It's decentralized. It's very important. There were efforts to build centralized storage for SBOM, never worked. It has discovery component, which I'll mention later. Product component model, which I just described. Release collection model, which I also showed. So before the first standard, it should include common lifecycle enumeration. That is like end of life type of things. And in the next versions, not the first one, it should have something that we call insights. So insights is where you can ask questions like, do I have log4j anywhere in my stack as a dependency? Or do I have a specific vulnerability anywhere in my stack? Is it like, am I affected by this or not? So those are the insights. A lot of questions how this would work. So Transparency Exchange API implementation requires a server, which can be either self-hosted or hosted by a T-service provider. One important point I made here, in any case, the domain, the authoritative domain, must be the one that belongs to manufacturer. So this is something that cannot be outsourced because this is a point of trust. So that's important. So one more thing I'll mention here is there is a lot of friction that people don't want to share SBOMs or certain data, or like they think it can make more harm than good if they share it. I would say think about it also as a point if you just share information within your organization. If your organization is sufficiently large, even if you close the boundary, you very likely need a system like this to manage this internally. Okay, so now let's get to technical details, and I'll show you a demo how this currently works. So we introduced something called Transparency Exchange Identifier, or TI. And I know like there is this reaction, or like another identifier. We have a lot already. We don't want another one. So this is I would say a wrapper around existing identifiers. That's what it is. So what it does, it maps your authoritative domain name to one of the identifiers that you're presumably already using. And I listed a bunch of those that are already compatible with the TI. And I have an example. I'm not sure if you can see here on the screen, but it's a package URL wrapped into TI. It's here. So package URL identifies your package, and then TI identifies the authoritative domain. Manufacturer needs to supply this TI to consumer, and that's the only piece of information that consumer needs to resolve the artifacts. Okay, this is probably, if you downloaded my slides or do it later, so I think the font is too small here, but this shows the sequence diagram of how this works. And half of this is conditional. Okay. I'll show you the demo. I'll try to do live demo instead of recorded one. I hope that it works. Okay, so the product I chose for demo, and it's like POC grade, is log4j. So I'm showing, is it legible, the text on the back, or should I make it larger? Okay, thank you. So I'm taking the first TI, which is the simplest one. It has UUID. So UUID is something internal to the T server. And here I have the actual UUID. And by the way, everything I'm showing is made with open source MIT license tooling. So once I do this, what's happening is it resolves this authoritative URL, which is like a demo URL in this case. And it reached the well-known T endpoint on this URL. Like to show you the reality, I'll open it here. So that's like the JSON response. This is part of T standard. So once it gets this response, so essentially what it tells is the actual T server is located here. In this case, it's the same server, but it could be different. So once it gets this response, so it selects the endpoint and then calls the discovery API, which is the same URL, but now it adds the same TI in URL encoded format. Once it calls this, it gets a single product release UUID, and then it's fetching details, which is also JSON standardized, and there is OpenAPI schema, so it calls this product release. So product name, Apache log4j, this is the version, and then the product, I'll show you actually how that looks. So the product here, it has two components, like on my slide. You see the product's Apache Log4j. So what the client then does, it just goes into each single component, and for each component, it retrieves artifacts that, in this case, it's XML CycloneDX bill of materials. And there can be more artifacts like this. So that's case number one. Case number two is kind of the same. It's just instead of UUID-based TEI, I can now use package URL-based TEI. And it would look pretty much the same. And case number three, which may be a reality, is when we don't know some details. So we know it's Log4j, but we don't know specific version. So what would happen then is this is client-side logic, but built against the server-side logic. So it will actually go and ask me, it will try to find what's called discriminating release and ask me what version do I use. So if I return, so as soon as it converges on some product UUID, it gets back to square one and gets you back the SBOMs. And again, these are, like, the SBOMs are real, so this is a real SBOM published by Apache. Again, you can put like attestation and all sorts of things on top of that. Okay, so that was the demo. Future steps. So as I mentioned, OWASP is now handling the project. The plan is to become ECMA standard next year, either June or December, depending on how fast we move. And then eventually ISO standard. Also, the project is in group with other projects like package URL, common lifecycle enumeration, and a few others. Slide with some reference. I also put reference to the tools I used. And thank you for listening. So that's about me. The QR code here is for my LinkedIn. If you want to connect or follow, I'll be happy to accept connections. So currently, I'm building open core. 90% is open source tool in the SBOM space and xBOM. I'm very active in contributions to Transparency Exchange API, participate in OpenSSF groups, and I was fortunate to travel a lot. This is me in Iceland on a beach about a year ago.